Welcome again to Dinis Guarda YouTube podcast show. Once again, portraying and as well highlighting some of the biggest personalities in the world of tech and business, and as well the makers and doers that are shifting the world and making it a better place. I'm particularly excited today to welcome to our series two personalities of one of the most interesting and as well, I would say, more cutting edge projects when it comes to art and anything digital art and NFTs in the world. That is SuperRare. And SuperRare Labs is a project that I think for the ones in NFTs doesn't need too much presentation, but I think for people that probably are not so involved still needs some introduction. So I would love to welcome to our series, of course, the two key personalities. So John Crain, the co-founder and CEO of SuperRare, and the CEO. And as well, we are lucky to have as well in the call as well, the CPO, as well, the Chief Product Officer, Jonathan Perkins. So I'm quite excited to have you guys both here. I'll go directly to the point. So if you could start by introducing yourselves, a bit of background, first of all, to start. Let's start by that. And thank you for being here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having us. Yes, I'll go first. So hey, everyone, my name is John Crain. I'm the CEO and one of the co-founders of SuperRare Labs. My background's always been kind of in art and technology. I studied architecture and engineering when I was in my undergrad, and then quickly got interested in programming and generative art. So I worked in New York at a couple startups, at a couple ad agencies, quickly fell down the crypto rabbit hole, and launched SuperRare to build a better platform for creators all over the world.
Jonathan?
Great. Yeah, super happy to be here. Thanks again for having us. Hello, everyone. My name is Jonathan Perkins, and I'm a co-founder and chief product officer at SuperRare Labs. And yeah, just a little bit of background. I studied digital media in college. I was mostly focused on audio and video production, but kind of dived deep into the technical and business side of digital media. And then got increasingly interested in technology entrepreneurship. I did a music-related startup right after college in San Francisco. Through that, kind of learned how to code. And when NFTs came along around kind of 2016, 2017, kind of like the birth of what we now think of as the NFT standard, it really clicked for me because I had sort of experienced firsthand career-wise the double-edged sword of the digital revolution, media assets on the internet being infinitely copyable, and that having radical effects on the economy of recording studios and digital sort of media production and digital artists that I knew. So I knew at that point that I really wanted to do something in the NFT sector. That is very fascinating to have digital scarcity. And that led John and I and our third co-founder, Charles, to launch SuperRare as a sort of, hack together self-funded project that we built in 2018.
Oh, fantastic. And congratulations. I'm a huge fan of SuperRare. It's been actually one of my favorite NFT marketplaces. So let's go, John, from your side. So as the CEO and of course leading the project. So where you started a bit of the history of SuperRare, and how do you start kicking off this, and actually a bit of the journey of SuperRare?
Yeah, absolutely. So as Jonathan mentioned, we're following very closely the NFT or the Ethereum ecosystem, and saw early the discussions around building a standard for non-fungible tokens, and we got really excited. So I was at a point in my career where I was ready for a change, and so I left the startup I was at and started prototyping just general tooling for NFTs. So kind of started with minting tools, building user-friendly graphical interfaces because there weren't really any tools like that available. And then we decided to add a marketplace component. And so, this would allow kind of like collectors to also buy and trade these NFTs once they had purchased them from collectors. And so, the early version was very rough. Yeah. Much less pretty than the website is today, but we quickly got a very passionate core group of users and artists who this really resonated with. We still believe very much in the mission. We think there's a big opportunity to change the power structures with regards to creator platforms and kind of make them more equitable. And this really resonated with artists. So we had a very passionate community of artists. Lots of the early collectors were also artists. And, the first few years, it was very small and scrappy, right? There weren't, the crazy volumes and, the Bored Apes of the early days, right? People were selling art for $100 to their friends. And it was just super exciting and lots of fun. And that all that changed in 2021, right? We started to see explosive growth across the NFT ecosystem. The numbers on SuperRare shot up. I think we were doing $30 million in sales per month, which was very exciting, but also just incredibly. It was an incredibly fast period of growth, and the market started to shift a little bit. We've experienced a bit of a downturn, but now we're, again, kind of seeing very strong numbers. And yeah, it's looking super exciting for the space.
So the platform definitely is one of the most beautiful as well. It has some of the best collections and best artists in the world. And you guys are the top 10 NFT marketplaces. In some cases, actually the top 5, 6, depends on how you look at the data. And of course, depends if you look more purely. We integrate things like the NBAs. Actually, from the data, it's interesting for people listening to us as we speak especially in November 2023. We have OpenSea, Axie Marketplace, Larva Labs of CryptoPunks, NBA Top Shot, Rarible, and SuperRare. And then, of course, you have Foundation and Nifty Gateway. So you guys achieved something amazing because, of course, you cannot compete with NBA Top Shots because, of course, it's not really art. It's not art, actually, or art, but it's slightly different, more related with NBA. And as well of the CryptoPunks is a hype of their own. It's a slightly different thing. So from an IP of the SuperRare, and you mentioned the history, but what do you would describe to our audience? What is the IP that you define both from a fundamental of the platform and fundamentals, the way you work with artists, which I think is one of the major differentiators, and as well the product. I think it's important for us to touch this, and then I have a lot of questions around what you guys have been doing as well around the community.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, we really wanted this to be, we're big believers in the general ethos of crypto, and so from day one, the platform has been non-custodial. So really the goal of SuperRare is to connect collectors with the world's best artists, and so artist sovereignty has been a big part of how we've developed everything, and really focused on building tools that empower artists and creators in this new economy that's being built in real time. And so as far as how things are structured on the website, Super is really there to help with discovery, and artists control everything that they create. So it's different from something like NBA Top Shot, for example, where they're licensing the IP from the NBA and then people are buying it from them. In the case of SuperRare, artists are completely in control of their IP. They're selling unique creations that are these one-of-one digital artworks, essentially. And it's very similar to how things work in the art world. So, as a collector, you have the right to display publicly and privately. You have the right to resell. But as far as IP ownership goes, that's really up for the artist to decide.
Amazing. So some of the numbers that you guys have are very impressive. So I want to touch the numbers. This is the present numbers that you have is 38,000 plus artworks collected, $182 million of sold and earned money through artists, $9 million in artist royalties, and 592 million NFT art marketplace cap. So these are very impressive numbers because before the NFT explosion, the world of art was actually very kind of mysterious and sometimes dark, not very popular. So that's a kind of a revolution that came out of the NFT explosion. Of course, there's all innovation around NFTs. There's all the speculation like in any bubble and then any kind of explosion. But there's a huge amount of innovation that came out of the platforms of NFTs, and especially SuperRare. So what would be the most innovative features, like you mentioned, the relationship with the artist, that this is controlled by the artist, but some of the features for people that don't know so much, for instance, you have in the platform, you have art, auction, spaces, curation. So tell us a bit how you see the journey of the artist. And as well, I want to touch in the second part, the DAO and what you're doing right now in building a decentralized autonomous organization around SuperRare.
Yeah, great question. I can certainly dive into the sort of the economics and the product a bit. So yeah, like John mentioned, we're, since the beginning, one of our core tenets has been, empowering online creators and building, core functionality and core tooling that enables creators to, make a living online. Like that's a really big part of what's revolutionary about NFTs is that it's a new way to monetize media, particularly for digital creators. So for digital artists, for the first time, they have this new income stream. And one, really core feature of SuperRare from day one has been artist royalties. So if you, compare what's going on with digital art versus the traditional art market, there's always been this really big problem in traditional art that often, the age-old story of the starving artists is often very true, even if their artworks go on to sell for staggering sums in the secondary market later on. Oftentimes when the artist is still living, and especially, or they have a family that's not getting any of that upside. So with NFTs, it's possible to have continual artist royalties so that they can have an income stream on the secondary market. So that's been baked into SuperRare from day one. And in many cases, artists receive more money upon artwork selling from collector to collector on the secondary market than the artist received upon primary sale when the artist was less known. So that's an example of a sort of product innovation that's leading directly to more economic upside for artists. And yeah, like John said, that we see the primary job of SuperRare to facilitate discovery between artist and collector. So you mentioned we have spaces. So those are community curated galleries on SuperRare. So there's an independent gallerist or curator that can build a community of artists and help them sell artworks. And another point to touch on is just kind of a bit more where we see the ecosystem going. John mentioned this phrase, artist sovereignty. One really interesting thing about Web3 is that the media really is cross-platform. So NFTs, can be, an NFT can be minted independently from SuperRare, but it can be sold on SuperRare. So this enables artists a much higher degree of autonomy and sovereignty than they have, in traditional art or in traditional sort of a Web2 media. So one really big part of the product focus right now is really leaning into that to enable artists to create on, using their own website or own, smart contracts, using any number of minting platforms and present their art and sell it the way that they want to on SuperRare.
So fantastic, and thank you for that. And our team, as we speak, will put the visuals and the videos of your platform. So I want to touch one thing particularly important. So you guys have, and of course, both of you guys have fantastic profiles. So John, in the context of your background, of course, you created SuperRare, or both of you guys created that. And since the time you created in around 2000, I think it was 2021, not 2000, the date, I'm trying to see the date, but well, since
2018 is when SuperRare
launched. 18, exactly, 18. So since 2018 that you launched, and then in 2021, you launched the SuperRare DAO. So you have as well decentralized autonomous organization related here. So can you tell us a bit about from that, because at the end of the day, it's 5 years right now that you guys have in history, which is quite an impressive. And in 5 years, of course, the NFTs and all the blockchain world has been going upside down multiple times, and it's hopefully will go upside again. But tell us a bit about that, this 5 years of trajectory, some of the ups and downs, and probably the ups, and let's talk on the ups, and as well about the DAO.
Yeah, well, yeah, so there's certainly been many ups and downs, as with, all endeavors, especially startups. There's lots of very high highs and very low lows. I think, really the biggest ups have all been related to actually being able to deliver on, this vision and dream that we had, right? I think when we first started to see royalties actually working and paying artists more in secondary sales than they had seen in the primary, that was very, obviously that's very inspiring, and just really believing that this technology could really change how the art market in general worked, right? And so I think it's been incredibly humbling to see this actually work. And it's I feel very lucky. I probably speak for Jonathan as well. Like just in general, we feel lucky to get to work on this and have a kind of like a front row seat to positive impact being created through some software that we're making, right? That's really exciting to see. And just as part of this journey, in 2021, right, like when the market really started to shift and people started to understand NFTs, it was really exciting. We got to see some legendary artists who, we've been fans of for a very long time. Folks like Shepard Fairey, right? Like I grew up wearing tons of Obey clothing, and having Shepard Fairey release some works with us was, incredibly exciting. And so it's just been really interesting to see as well, kind of like the art world dealing with this technological change, right? I think with all digital transformations, you have kind of institutional incumbents who at first don't really know how to deal with the change and, start to adapt. And it's been super exciting for us. We've done collaborations with, world-renowned auction houses, and it's really great to see kind of like the industry working together to build, a more equitable system than we had before. And I think that really relates to the DAO, right? Like for us, when we started to build SuperRare, part of the inspiration was thinking through, platforms like Instagram and YouTube. The shareholders almost have a conflict of interest with the users. And what I mean by that is really what shareholders want is YouTube and Instagram to sell as many ads as possible. So you almost want to invest as little in the consumer, in the product for the users. You want to invest just enough so you can sell more ads. But there's this balance because you kind of have a conflict of interest. And part of what excited us about Web3 and crypto networks is that the users of the platform can be the owners of the platform. If you think about Bitcoin, it's not controlled by anyone. It's not owned by anyone. It really is the users of the network who own the network itself. And so for us, that just made a lot of sense with something like a creator platform. We really wanted to see, could we align interests between the people operating the network and, the users of the network, and, ultimately having those be the same people. And so that's what really led us to launch the DAO in 2021.
So since in the last 2 years in particular, of course, there's all the evolution of the NFTs and maturity, and as well the hype. And right now, I think we are in the stage of maturity. And of course, the NFTs are here to stay, especially as a digital, I would say as a digital asset that creates value for the creators and as well for the collectors, because the two things, because in the end of the day, you have a proof of ownership of something that you buy. And there's been a lot of case studies of, like you mentioned, big artists, big organizations, big fashion brands right now all involved in the NFT. And actually there's a big community worldwide. So from this kind of maturity and challenges, so I would like to touch just a question general for our audience, and I think especially for the people that are more within the NFTs, but as well for the ones they want to be. So what would be the strengths and weakness that we're still going? So probably with the eyes that you can see right now in the maturity of the NFTs, and what we need to do to improve and get this even more mature industry and take this to the next level.
Yeah, great question. This is something that we think a lot and that we think about a lot. And I think there's enormous opportunity to make the space more accessible. And I think we really need to solve a few problems at an ecosystem level in order to have this unlock and to make it really much more sort of mainstream accessible and unlock the true potential of this space, right? In 2021, almost every news organization around the world wrote about NFTs. Like there was this massive, billions of people, I would say, read about NFTs, but it was kind of in the context of this bubble and this hype cycle. And most of those people now just register it as like, that was a passing fad, or that was something that I heard about. There was something about apes or whatever. And well, that's kind of how technology grows. Those people aren't engaged, right? Like the mainstream adoption hasn't come yet. And so one really big focus for us in order to get there is actually focusing on the data layer. And so what I mean by that is NFTs have been around for, 5 or 6 years as we know them today. And this space is flourishing with experimentation. People are minting on, SuperRare and Zora and Foundation and OpenSea. On Ethereum, there's, dozens of platforms, dozens of options for artists and collectors, each of which that has sort of different approach to tying those NFTs to the artist's identity, different ways of displaying them, in wallets and so forth. And then artists are also experimenting with many other blockchains. So there's, thriving creator communities on the Tezos blockchain, on, Bitcoin with ordinals through the Taproot upgrade. There's now, very compelling traction with NFTs on Bitcoin, and then other sort of L2 chains based on Ethereum, such as, Zora and Base, which are doing a great job, cultivating creator economies as well. And one thing that's interesting there is that it's the same creators experimenting on all these different chains. And we see a world in which this continues. There's going to be multiple chains, and there's going to be multiple platforms, and artists are going to continue to experiment and release artworks on Bitcoin and on Ethereum and on Base with a variety of different interfaces. And for a collector, unless you're an engineer or have a team of engineers, that's a bit of a headache. Currently, in order to, really dig in and to understand this space, you need to, spend a couple months and follow several hundred people on Twitter and join several Discords and maybe, hire a technical person to help you assess what is the body of work of one of these artists that's, minting on different platforms. What's the average price? Just kind of like basic data that you can get, from a traditional art market database is not available in this space. So one of our major initiatives right now is what we call Rare Protocol. And this is an attempt to solve that problem through open and crowdsourced data. And so, speaking of the DAO, this is a major proposal that we have in the DAO forum right now to, tackle this problem as a community, with open data. So we, basically, I think in order for this market to have this big unlock and to be accessible for people that just want to click in and understand basic data about the art market, the digital art market, what a certain creator is doing, the asset history of a certain series, we need to have more transparency and more accessibility of that basic information. And so Rare Protocol is, our big project to essentially make that, hopefully 100 times more accessible for the whole world.
Well, that's first of all, congratulations. That's for me the key element as well that I always highlight here is how we can actually make these products work better and have more accessibility. Because like you said, the creators are like 0.1% of the internet, and most of them are struggling. Actually, there was a study I interviewed actually in this channel, one personality of the UK government, that she said that from a study done, for instance, there's around 20 to 30 million artists in the world, and 90% are starving, or at least in very tricky situations, which it made me a bit nervous. But it's actually, if you talk with a lot of artists, most of them are on the edge because they don't know how to use these tools. So that brings me to one question here that is very important, and they touch what you just said, Jonathan. So you guys build a huge platform that is one of the most solid, and the valuation of $500 million plus. So how do you foster the sense of community among the artists and the collectors, and as well the technologists? And of course, in you, John, you were as well part of ConsenSys, so all the diligence, of course. ConsenSys, for people listening to us, I interview as well personalities of ConsenSys here, but ConsenSys is one of the arm operations of Ethereum, although it's independent but very close. So you have the experience of being in, of course, the biggest currency, I would say, community, because Bitcoin is slightly different if you put it in a different way. And now you guys building as well a huge amount of platform for artists and creators. So this part of the community is key for any success of any platform. And I would like to touch, how do you see this part of the community and your goals, how you pretend to engage, and as well the education part of the community, because that still need a lot. I feel, listen to everyone from my team to everyone I speak in events worldwide, people don't have a clue. We talk about Web3 and people get very confused. We are exceptions, but we need to, and actually the creators in your platform are exceptions as well, but it's about the way you foment this and take it forward.
Yeah, a community is incredibly important. And, for us, it's really been a community first strategy from day one. And even, strategy might be a strong word. Like really, we have always, like we're trying to help people, right? Let's say, we're trying to help artists, we're trying to help collectors. And to really do that, you have to get to know them. Like you have to even, like we're part of the community, right? We're both big collectors. I like to make art. And I think just, what doesn't work, like there's lots of examples of people raising, like huge VC war chests and then going out and trying to buy community, right? Like community isn't something that you can buy. It has to be genuine. It has to be organic. And we've tried to create an ecosystem where you have the right touch points for the community. And so for us, early on, one of the things we identified is that there was a lack of discussion around this type of art in a way that the art world had discussion happening. And so an example of that is launching our editorial, where this is a very grassroots community run publication. We had writers from the community. We're highlighting artists and kind of elevating their art in ways that matter. And this makes a big difference. And so, like some of the work we're doing on the protocol side, right? Like, this is kind of like a deeper tech initiative and having very active and engaged Discord chats. They have a weekly Twitter space where people, members of the community can jump on, ask questions, have discussion. And I think community is almost one of those things where like if you overthink it, you're probably going to do a bad job. It's just, how would you engage your friends and colleagues? And if you treat people respectfully, if you're honest and transparent, that goes a long way. And so I think that's really been kind of like our approach from day one, and it's going very well still.
I agree, and it's really very difficult to keep a community and as well to create the engagement. And the best projects in the world are the ones that that create that viral and that capacity to push this forward. So we are in November 2023, and your NFT sales have been growing, and like you mentioned before, there's a trend towards this. So do you think right now there's more maturity in terms of the NFTs after, like you said before, just 2 years ago, there was really an entire revolution, and as well, of course, a huge hype around the NFTs. Now things are a bit calmer, but still there's I think more stability. So how do you see the present state of the industry and platforms, and how these platforms are really growing and engaging with the largest art community at large? You mentioned a couple of very big galleries, big auctions, big artists involved, but do you think it's already mature enough and that we're going to see a growth, or it'll be still a step-by-step approach?
Yeah, no, we're certainly at an interesting point. And the way we look at it, like, we entered this space, I guess, with crypto technology in general, of which NFTs are a part. We always tend to think and talk in very long-term views, right? So, what's Bitcoin going to do in the next 30 to 90 days? Nobody knows. But do we have high conviction that it's going to keep chugging along and providing value over the next 5-10 years? Like, absolutely. And with NFTs, the fundamentals haven't really changed, right? Like the fundamentals of NFTs are such that we now have the ability to register and trade and track provenance for any object in the world digitally. And so that gives a digital identity to, such things like digital artworks or, any other, number of things that people want to build on this layer. And, in that sense, we're still just in the very early days of this. I'm, very bullish on the future impact that NFTs are going to continue to have. And, of course, our focus is on art and the, creator economy. And, within that, if you think back to, 2018 to the early days, there was jokes about Christie's and Sotheby's and these more traditional art players, and people were doing artworks, about them and memes and all this stuff. But it was like a pipe dream that they would ever, think about doing NFTs like back then. And now, fast forward 5 years, a lot has happened. And now the news cycle is like, maybe Sotheby's isn't so serious about NFTs after all. Well, that's a huge leap beyond where we were back then, right? Like we've seen that the traditional art market is certainly going to be integrating digital art in some capacity. I think the cat's out of the bag in that sense, which is great, but that's not our mission wasn't to get the traditional art world to pay attention to this stuff. Our mission was to really revolutionize the potential for creators to monetize their work directly and independently online. And, we've got great partners in the traditional art world. I think that's a piece of the puzzle. But with the hype cycles that come and go, I think that's almost like the subtitle of the story. And to me, the title of the story is that, NFTs are still just continuing to gain mind share and prove their value, even just through simple ways of having artwork provenance, right? Like if you have an NFT that sold in 2018 and then maybe, changed hands again one time in, 2022, and then it's on the market now in 2023, just having that provenance, we're starting to see auctions that online, that on-chain record of ownership is a very meaningful part. And to me, those are the types of things that compound and increase value the longer that this space has been around. I think we're still in the very early days, and nothing really has changed about the fundamentals of NFTs, sort of regardless of the speculative cycles.
Fantastic, and I think what you touch right now about this quality and as well how you can create this narrative is the key element, because of course the industry is changing continuously, and we are just at the beginning still, because 5 years in terms of technology is not much. So I want to touch one important thing. So both of you touch the principle of the kind of the community and the principles of the artist in the front face of the platform. So in the last 1 year in particular, AI has been disrupting what it means to be a creator. So I could not do this without touching. So how do you see especially the dynamics right now that we have in terms of, and of course, a lot of the artists that are creating in SuperRare and in platforms like yours are really the best ones using the best of AI, the best of technology, the best of digital in general. So how do you see, firstly, the idea of blockchain and all the different areas to create ID for the artist and for the art piece, that is the NFT, and as well the AI part, because in the end of the day, an artist right now is going to increasingly create with tools like AI tools, like okay, we can have DAO, or we can have all the massive tools that are right now disrupting everything. We can actually look at the way we look at art as a standpoint or an artist creation. So I want to see how you're seeing this and how you're leading with this with the creators, because that's, for instance, a lot of artists right now. There's even cases of artists that build with the data from other artists. And of course, every artist was always a bit stealing. Picasso used to say that the best artists are the ones that steal better. But I want to touch how you guys look at especially the dimension between blockchain, ID, and digital assets, and then the AI component of data that integrates a lot of layers in the creation and in the process of creation.
Yeah, I think one of the big challenges that the art world has had has been around identity and being able to authenticate artworks. And so from that regard, blockchain is an order of magnitude better than the solutions that have existed previously. Even in its current state, right? Jonathan touched a lot on the fragmented market data, but that data still exists today, whereas prior to NFTs, the data didn't even really exist at all. And so, we've got a lot further to go, but even in the current state, having an immutable record of when somebody created something, is a big leap forward. And so that's been hugely helpful. And I think part of what is driving a lot of the value creation in this ecosystem, that's one of the things that makes art investing challenging, is there are quite a large number of forgeries, and there's no real way to be 100% certain. Whereas with new kind of blockchain technology and immutable ledgers, you have an almost pristine provenance record of artworks and for artists. And so that's really exciting. And then on the AI point, with SuperRare, AI artists were some of the earliest adopters, right? This isn't new for lots of the artists. It's more, it's new in the public zeitgeist because of the recent press cycles. And I think what's exciting is when you combine the two, right, it gets very interesting because you now have this pristine provenance record where you can authenticate and verify nearly any piece of art. At the same time, we're seeing, orders of magnitude improvements in some of this creative tooling. And so I think, one of the challenges what exists today is how do you authenticate and prove that, this is a genuine, is this sort of generated content or is this actually a real video clip? And so in the case of AI artists, because they are using the blockchain, you can see this is a really new, interesting piece of art from the specific artist, so we know exactly who it is. And artists are going to adopt new tools, right? And so AI is just kind of one of the new tools that we're seeing incredible works being created and artists leveraging this as part of their practice.
Just to double click on that, this is again, like you said in the beginning of the call, we could sit here for 4 or 5 hours and dive into any number of these topics. It's a deep and interesting rabbit hole. But yeah, going back to the work that we're doing with Rare Protocol, one really interesting and important component of that, I think, is creator verification, and like you included as part of the question of the this identity, this on-chain identity portion. And we really think we need a decentralized approach to this, because the identities are decentralized, right? Like with ENS and other wallet-based solutions like that, the user identities are increasingly on-chain and decentralized. And if you have just a centralized authority that's verifying identities, such as like the infamous Twitter blue check mark, or I think OpenSea, for example, has their own sort of centralized blue check mark. That's okay to a point, but what if that company goes out of business, or what if the website's down, or what if they're a bad actor? And so with Rare Protocol, we are piloting a peer-to-peer staking system that we call curation staking. And so that's a way for anyone to go stake some tokens on a wallet address of somebody that a creator, a collector that they support. And out of that, one of the aspects of that is that we get this sort of crowdsourced authentication or sort of reputation system. So you can go to, I can go to John's staking portal and see, what list of creators and collectors that he's staked on. And then I can go to those people and see what other stakers they have. And so, it's early signs of the possibility to have a verifiable, decentralized layer that helps prove authorship, which is just going to be, incredibly important in the future with AI, creation tools that we already have, where, content is already basically limitless. So that's the future that we're going into.
And I have to ask, sorry, just on a note on this. So both of you guys seem to be very, very positive in terms of AI. So are you more on the positive side or the doom scenario of AI? Because of course, one of the things right now is how can we sometimes distinguish it, especially with all the things happening with AI. I just want to touch this because I think for the creators, it's a big question, because what I feel talking with creators, and you guys talk with them every day, is that there are some of them that are really on the loop, and I'm sure all your creators have to be, but then there's others that are denying completely. So how do you see this part? Are you more on the positive side or the negative side? I have to ask this.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I guess like in the in the context of art, and this creator economy, I'm very much on the positive side. Whether or not we're all going to become, enslaved by AI overlords at a macro sense, and we won't have to worry about the art world anymore, then, I don't know. I can't answer that question. But one of the things, one key element is to make it clear what content is actually created by a verified author or not. And, that's going to be incredibly important. And so that's what, one aspect of this rare curation staking system is. And, anyone can go to rare.xyz and learn more about the protocol and dive into how it works there. But, we're already seeing, we saw something on Twitter a couple weeks ago where there was a crypto journalist who tweeted, hey, there's this fake PDF book that someone had ChatGPT write under my authorship name, and it's basically out there as imposter content. And he's like, I didn't write this thing, but it's out there under my name. And so that's going back to this need for a decentralized, trustable authorship and identity layer that is just like very obviously going to be a huge problem in the future.
John, you want to any opinion on this? Because it's a very important one, and I always like to, because it's the biggest problem we're facing as humanity, like a lot of people say. But I want to just touch from the principle of the arts and your platform.
Yeah, on the art side, I kind of think about it like other technological revolutions that have come before, and to a much smaller extent. But I think there's a bit of analogy around digital photography. So, really when that came along, it was like, oh, this is the end of photography. You're going to have a bunch of amateurs, taking pictures, and you're not even going to be able, there's no craft involved. Obviously that's not the case, right? If I take a picture with my iPhone, it does not look like, a picture that Dave Krugman took and, posted on SuperRare. And so I think from the artist perspective, it's a bit overblown. We're going to have, it might make the layman better. They might, create cooler content with AI tooling, but I think artists are always able to adapt. And I think what we're going to see from them is just orders of magnitude more interesting and engaging artwork, leveraging, on the general societal implications. Yeah, I'm generally an optimist. I think you have to be an optimist to try and start a company. And so I feel like we'll probably net out with, the positive end of the spectrum, but only time will tell.
I like it. And you guys are practical as well. So I know that we almost passing, but I still would like to touch 2 questions or 3. So the question right now is, so you guys, we touched this. So we've been evolving for 5 years. You have a DAO, you have a fantastic valuation that has been actually thriving even during all these ups and downs of the crypto winter, let's put it that way, or one of the second winters so far. But I think definitely the maturity of the industry is better than others. So on this context, how does SuperRare envision its role on the evolving landscape of the NFTs and blockchain technology, and especially your DAO and your community and engagement of the artists? So where I would say you guys want to be in 1, 2, 3 years with all the experience that you have right now?
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, just to jump in on the sort of, the community and the protocol side, as I said before, we see, a continuation of this explosion of growth and experimentation across platforms and across chains. And, we think there's a huge opportunity for a community-owned, decentralized data layer that helps unlock the potential of this by making, basically unifying this market and making it much more accessible. So that's the main focus of the Rare DAO and the protocol, and getting ready for a world in which there's the opportunity to mint and collect art on dozens of different blockchains, hundreds of different platforms. So that's the sort of trajectory that we see the overall ecosystem going.
So strengthen the ecosystem and the community and take it to the next level. So we touched the concept of the creative economy, and you guys are part of it, and you actually achieved fantastic benchmarks on that. So my experience, and this is a very personal question, is that at the moment, and I touched that before, that most of the creative economy that we have now is actually very broken, because most of the people cannot make money online. So if you look at the number of influencers or creatives around the world, most of them are struggling. But as well, there's a digital divide. There is people that understand how to use these tools to effectively create a lifestyle and create different parts. So you guys have DAO, and for people listening to us, DAO, decentralized autonomous organization, it's a kind of I would say, tribal organization using technology that creates assets and value for the community. So I would like to touch a bit more deep on the day-to-day your DAO is working, but as well how this can create new tools for people listening to us that have very small digital presence, or people that are still in university, or people that came from a course and they're still struggling to meet ends and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, I think the best thing that people can do who aren't yet involved is, to really, you kind of just have to start somewhere, right? So I think it's, a lot of this is happening on Twitter and Discord, and just like, really put yourself out there, keep creating art and just, try to learn. I think what I've found from this community is that it's one of the most generous when it comes to, being open and onboarding new folks to the ecosystem. And, at the same time, like, there are initiatives doing outreach, but I think, really it's, like, we need to connect with people who aren't yet part of the ecosystem and, just encourage them to put themselves out there.
Thank you. So last one that I want to touch. So you guys are part of the Web3 wave, and the Web3 right now is going to increasingly immersive experiences. And when we talk about metaverse, this is very, very broader team, because of course there's metaverse from the point of view of gaming, the point of view of immersive technology, digital twins. So I would like to see if you guys have, for instance, platforms like Solsea.io, which created actually fantastic immersive galleries where actually you can go and walk through the gallery. So on that level of the Web3 experience, and of course, Jonathan, you as a product, but as well you, John, as CEO, what are you guys trying to do on this area, especially with Apple Vision Pro?
Yeah, absolutely. I think just the deeper and richer and better the experiences coming out from these projects and these developers, the better the value proposition of digital art, right? Even over the past 5 years, if you dial back 5 years, when we started talking to people about digital art, and in 2018, most collectors and the layperson is kind of scratching their head and be like, how do you view it? Do you just look at it on your phone, or do you hang it on your wall? I think it's not the metaverse isn't the entirety of the answer, but NFTs are sort of property rights management within the metaverse. And, as such, it makes, art collecting and the display and experience of digital art that much better of a value proposition. So yeah, that is to say, we're very excited to, continue to experiment and partner with folks in that space. I think, NFT ownership and collecting and immersive, metaverse-like experiences are, in some ways kind of a match made in heaven.
Okay, so mostly right now for me to understand, so from a perspective, I want to touch this because it's quite an important thing. So you touched the metaverse and the Web3, but are you guys envision, for instance, to integrate in the platform some kind of more immersive experiences, or you want to keep this kind of Web2, Web3 part? So I want to touch this. I'm particularly interested on these areas because it's one of the things I'm studying as well. I always like to see, especially our big platform like yours is going in that direction. I will go a bit more technical on that one if possible.
Yeah, we're absolutely interested in more immersive experiences. I think, it's really going to be driven by the artists and collectors. I think what we've seen so far is that, people enjoy building various galleries and these metaverse experiences. But I'm super interested in, like you were touching on, like Apple, the Vision product. I think that'll be really interesting when we can, kind of like overlay this, these components of our digital identity with our physical spaces. I think that'll be really interesting. And so I think as the technology improves and becomes a little easier to use, and I think we're going to see very interesting interactions. And yeah, for us, I think, putting your art up in your house is always something that's fun to do. I think no one's really, cracked the UX as far as like, it's, yeah, sure, you can put it on a screen, but, you could easily see a world in which if someone has, Apple Vision on, they can see all your digital art that you put wherever you want in your house, which would be pretty cool.
That's a very good one. And I think it will be a key one. Okay, well, I have much more questions. Probably just as a last note for you guys. So what do you want to say for people listening to us about the stage you are in SuperRare? Some calls to action, some actions that you want to push forward. My last action point.
Yeah, I would say, one of our big initiatives right now is the Rare protocol. We're really trying to build the cross-platform, cross-chain, data set that's going to power this entire ecosystem and market. And so, this is a call to adventure. And, reach out, follow us on Twitter, Rare_protocol, and join the revolution.
Yeah, also just on that note, hop into the Discord. That's where all the magic is happening. If you go to rare.xyz, that's the Rare protocol homepage, and you can link to the Discord. And again, as far as like how to, new folks get involved, pretty open door, come in, say hi, start asking questions. I think that's the best way to get started.
Well, thank you so much. I like to keep time 1 hour, so I appreciate the time and of course the sharing of this great energy, and as well a lot of things as well that I think for people listening to us make you think. We're putting all the links to this. There's a couple of questions that I have here, even some of them that came from our community, for instance, how the voting mechanisms around the rare token holders. Most of this is answering some of the links you just mentioned. I will touch that. I'll touch as well the Discord link and different parts. So it's been an honor to have you here. I'm very excited. Continuation of achievements and success, massive success for you guys. And as well, especially this bridge, very unique that you guys have. That is the one of the probably the most special platform for creators in the art world with the NFTs. Thank you so much for making it possible as well.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Take care.
Take care. Cheers.